Hey Cal fans, and welcome to this week's breakdown of our defense against the Oregon Ducks. Oregon's game plan against us wasn't any kind of a surprise. Late in the first quarter, their starting quarterback got injured, and they played the rest of the game with a backup who hardly ever threw the ball. So in this video, we're going to answer the question, why were they able to run so effectively against us, even though we knew that it was coming? To understand the difficulty, we have to understand that Oregon likes to run a lot of run-pass options. And these are plays where there are basically two things that are going on. One of these options that they have is that the offensive line is run blocking, and so the quarterback can just hand the ball off to the running back like it's a normal run play. The other option is going to be that in addition to this, the wide receivers will be running some kind of routes. Sometimes they might be slants, sometimes they might be screens. The key is that the quarterback has the option, if it looks like the run is getting taken away, to pull the ball and throw it to these wide receivers. So to get back to our question of why we were unable to stop the run even though we knew it was coming, we didn't actually know that the run was coming. Oregon was calling run plays, but they all had pass options built off of them. And so even Oregon didn't know before each play whether they were going to run or pass. The fact of the matter is they ran the ball as often as they did because our defense was set up in a way that told them to run, or that gave them a run read. So the question we have to ask now is, why was our defense set up this way? To get into this, let's look at one of the formations that Oregon used most often to run these RPOs. Here we see that the Ducks have three wide receivers to the right of the formation, a tight end to the left, and one running back in the backfield. One of the first keys to defending these RPOs is making sure that you're not outnumbered to the pass component. And so since we've seen that Oregon's got three wide receivers to the right of the formation, Cal's also going to need three defenders to make sure that they're not getting outnumbered on the screen. The next thing that the defense has to think about is how they're going to defend the quarterback, because on this RPO, the run component is actually a zone read, and so the quarterback's going to have the ability to take the ball around the edge if this outside linebacker crashes down the line for the running back. So, in addition to having these three defenders to the right to take away the screen, Cal's going to need a fourth defender to hang on the edge and defend the quarterback. This is basically going to let the quarterback block this outside linebacker, and we can see here that because that linebacker has to sit, he's not able to catch up to the running back until he's already broken the line of scrimmage. Now we can start to see the problem, which is just that we don't have enough defenders. We've got three defenders covering the screen, a fourth defender sitting wide for the quarterback, a fifth defender in this deep safety. That's only going to leave us with six guys to defend the handoff. Oregon's got six blockers, including their tight end and their offensive line, so that's going to give them an advantage. If you need to defend the zone read then you really need to have both a dive player who can take the running back and a quarterback player who can sit on the read option. On this play, we're going to use these five defenders to cancel out Oregon's offensive linemen, use our outside linebacker as the dive player, and then use this blitzing defensive back as the quarterback player. Now numerically, the reason that we're able to have both a dive and a quarterback player is because we're outnumbering Oregon's blockers 4-on-2 to the left side of the formation. They've got their left guard and left tackle, and they can block two players, but we've still got this outside linebacker and blitzing defensive back who they can't block, and that's what lets us get both a dive player and a quarterback player. We're not the only ones with the ability to control numbers in the formation, however. Here we see that Oregon's running a zone read to the left, and if this were going to be like our last play, that'd mean that our outside linebacker would be coming down as an unblocked dive player, and that our defensive back here would be playing as a quarterback player on the edge. But Oregon's made a nice adjustment here to take away that kind of defensive strategy. What they've done is they've brought a tight end into the formation, so now they have three blockers to the quarterback's read side. Now the tight end's going to be able to block that outside linebacker, so he's not going to be able to be an unblocked dive player. When this defensive back sits wide as a quarterback defender, that's going to open up a nice inside cut back lane for the running back to take for a nice chunk of yards. The most important thing to take away from all this is the important role that the threat of a quarterback run has on the defense as a whole. If this blitzing defensive back didn't have to sit wide for the quarterback, then he'd be able to be the dive player and he'd be able to run down more of these plays in pursuit. This threat of the quarterback keeper on the zone read is fundamentally what separated the USC game from the Oregon game. Even though Darnold's a pretty mobile quarterback, he's not really a zone read quarterback, and so that was one less defender that we had to commit to the run game and one more defender that we could put somewhere else. The final takeaway is that even if you know that a zone-based RPO is coming, your defensive solution is going to be different depending on what formation the offense uses to run it. We saw, for example, that when Oregon didn't use a tight end, we were able to easily get a dive player and a quarterback player to shut down the zone run. But that once they brought a tight end in, we had trouble getting those two extra defenders that we needed to stop the play. The solution to the same play will be different depending on what formation the offense uses to run it, and that's going to make it even harder for you to get into the perfect call. Because it's so hard to get into the perfect call against a team that switches it up like Oregon does, this makes it all the more imperative that when you are in a good call, you make your tackles, and that was an area where we had some execution issues. When you combine missed tackles and execution issues with difficulty getting into the right kind of play call, you end up with a night where you can't stop the run at all. All right, that's all I've got for this week. I'll see you in 2 more weeks, and until then, go Bears!